Welcome back to the Ignore the Template podcast, the only FPL podcast on the entire internet, hosted by me and brought to you by Ricola. Not actually, but yeah, still getting over this little cold that won't quit. And speaking of, are you more of a honey herb kind of guy, or are you a traditional, original Ricola kind of guy? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments. But no, I am not sponsored by Ricola, but if anybody has the hookup, let me know, because I'm a big fan. What are we talking about today? This is going to be a jam-packed episode. We have to react to double game week 33. We have to segment in some time to cry and be depressed. Then we have to move forward and talk about game week 34. A lot of people are going to be using a free hit. It is a blank game week. I'm going to try to give advice for people who don't have free hit. I've got questions for the podcast from Discord as well. And then we've got to talk about the free hit competition. So let's stop fluttering my lips and let's get into the podcast. Bad phrase. What better place to start than this beautiful 0-point green arrow that I got from using my bench boost in a double game week with 13 double game weekers? Oh, it was bad. It was so bad. This was supposed to be a massive green arrow. I took a big red arrow last week, which I kind of anticipated, although it was a bigger red arrow last week than I thought it was going to be. And it was all prepping for this week, which was hopefully going to balance the scales. So I got a bigger red arrow than I was expecting and a smaller green arrow. I mean, it's almost negligent. It's almost nothing. So I walked away with 109 points, which netted me a zero, like I said, a 0-point green arrow. I'm basically just back. The 50K purgatory just will not let go of me. I thought I was free for a little while. It pulled me back in. So how did I get there? Let's walk through the whole thing, because it was a bench boost, and let's just get the bad news out of the way first, because a few things ended up screwing me in particular, more so than other people, although a lot of people have the players that I'm going to reference. But João Pedro, no news of injury, 0 games, 0 points. So while this was really bad for me, bench boost, a lot of people, people playing a free hit who might have brought him in ended up getting some junk points off the bench, which you probably had a double game weaker. So it was probably not bad. It was probably more than 0. And on top of the Chelsea mess, Palmer, some mysterious hamstring injury, although maybe that should have been expected. I think it's kind of harsh. Gets 2 points from the first game. Would have loved for him to play against Brighton, but I mean, they got smoked by Brighton anyway, so what did that matter? But yeah, out of the 2 matches, I would have preferred Palmer to play that one. He didn't. He played the first one against Manchester United, when he did nothing, and walked away with 2 points. Gabriel, nil point, 0-pointer. And that's kind of the worst of it. The rest is like relatively negligible. But pretty much every 50-50 call that I took went the wrong way. So like Darlow was very popular. I think he came away with 8 points. What was that? Yeah, Darlow got 8 points. Petrovic, who was anticipated to get a lot more than 2. I think he even was projected to get more than Verbruggen. He walks away with a lowly 2 points. Miserable from him. Did he even get a single save point across the 2? He got a yellow card, good, and he got goals conceded, a minus point there. So he basically did nothing. I think I had other pretty much all of my players got yellow cards in at least one match. Tavernier got a yellow card in the first one, I think. Aronson got a yellow card. Did Struick? No, you're a beautiful man. Why would you get a yellow? Senesi, just the minus points for goals conceded. Gabriel probably could have and should have been sent off, so maybe a yellow card is good there. But yeah, it was just not good for any of my like 50-50 calls. It just didn't go my way. Now, I can't really complain. Aronson, I think 7 points is good, but not as much as I was anticipating. Petrovic, bad, only 2 points. And then Gecky, it was a toss-up between him and O'Reilly. Ends up being a 5-point differential. It sucks. What can you do? Hill was a threat to my rank. He got 5 points. Darlow was also a threat to my rank. He got 8 points. So, yeah, what can I say? It was a crappy bench boost, very unlucky. Would I have done anything different? I mean, not really. I feel like the things that went against me were kind of coin tosses and were not based on logic or stats or anything like that. So it's one of those where you just have to hold your hands up. And I've just been, my luck with chips this season has been probably the worst I've ever had. I think in both of my triple captain is what I meant to say. Both of my triple captain, I'm pretty sure was there a double game week in the first one? But anyways, my triple captain in the first leg of the season was miserable. It was a Holland blank. The triple captain in the second leg of the season was a Gabriel double game week against, I think it was Wolves and somebody else, very easy, and he got like nothing. So yeah, bad on that. Can't do anything with a bench boost. Now I have a free hit left. It's probably going to go rotten as well, but we'll get to that when we start talking about Game Week 34. But to summarize Game Week 33, again, bad luck, a negligible green arrow, a 4% increase in my rank, going from 52k to 50k. So yeah, basically nothing. I guess, and one last thing to wrap it up, the only saving grace I can see is that at least I have my free hit to hopefully João Pedro gets back to fitness, hopefully Palmer gets back to fitness, and I could deal with those guys in Game Week 35. So at least I don't have to worry about it this week. They're definitely going to be out. So that's really the only thing. And hopefully the rest of my guys can just do well for the rest of the season. But I think now we're so late in the season. I was really banking on these chips like boosting my rank significantly, and it's just basically done the opposite. It's pulled me back closer to the 50k purgatory. Let's see what we can do with free hit 34. Let's jump to that now. Why not? Okay, so similar to last podcast, basically what I'm going to do is go with a starting point of a free hit. And for what it's worth, I've ran all the stats, reran all the data, and this was the optimized free hit team for 34. So this is what the algorithm suggests the best team is. I definitely disagree with it. Although what the hell do I know? I'm so bad at FPL at the moment, but this was the optimized, quote unquote, optimized team based on the underlying data and based on fixture difficulty rating. So all that's like weighted in, and this is the team that it suggested. I will be making updates to this, and obviously my free hit team is going to match what I'm going to put forward for the competition, the free hit competition. But just starting with this team, I'll walk through it, and then we'll go position by position and kind of walk through my thought process on where I landed with certain players and how I got to my final, or quote unquote final, because yeah, if we get news that it is subject to change. So if players get injured, etc., I'll make updates. But walking through the optimized free hit team for 34, it goes with Robin Roofs in goal against Nottingham Forest at home. I've had some more thoughts about that one. I just think if I'm looking at the broader picture, and this is noting back to some of my spinning out about Sunderland defenders and the fact they conceded 4, and then Nottingham Forest scored a lot of goals last weekend, I'm going to look at the wider landscape and say that Sunderland have been a really good defense at home. Nottingham Forest have not been a very good functional attack away from home. So I'm going to look at last week more of an anomaly and less of like predictive of what's going to happen this week. Maybe that's just the cope, but that's going to be informing some of my decisions. But again, this is, we're just talking about the optimized team, not the free hit team I'm going with. So Robin Roofs in goal, Gabriel against Newcastle, Dan Ballard, Mukiele, Tarkovsky against West Ham away. Everton have been really good away from home, by the way. That's something you should note, something that maybe I'm not factoring in enough, but they've been really good away from home, and they're playing West Ham, who have not been very good across the entire season. Recency, they've been better, but yeah. Bruno Fernandes in the midfield against Brentford. Anderson against Sunderland away. Dewsbury Hall against West Ham away. Gibbs White, Garner, and then Ollie Watkins against Fulham away. On the bench, Hermansen, Bowen, Pedro Porro, and Solanke. So that is the optimized free hit team for Gameweek 34. There's 9.4 million left on the bank with my budget. So you're almost certainly going to be able to afford this team. I'm going to make some changes. So let's walk through the actual data and position by position and see how I made my decisions, basically, because my team looks a lot different. I've come up with a team subject to change, though. And a lot has not changed from the last podcast. Obviously, it's only one more game week worth of data, although some teams had double game weeks, but those teams will be blanking and really not in consideration for this week. So at goal, number one recommendation, highest projected point total for Game Week 34 is Robin Roofs, followed by Hermansen. Those would be the top two I would consider. I think if you want to go, I don't even know if this is differential, because you're playing a free hit. You're bringing in players a lot of people don't have typically, but Pickford is next on the list. Mamadashvili is going to be out. So I would use Mamadashvili as a Freddie Woodman replacement. Just scratch that name out, Mamadashvili, and imagine Freddie Woodman in fourth place, because we obviously don't have a lot of data on him. I mean, maybe you can say it's gonna weaken the Liverpool defense. I think that's totally valid, but on a one-off game, I think it's as best of an approximation as you can get. After Mamadashvili / Freddie Woodman, there's not a lot of good options. I think a lot of people are going to go for David Raya. I understand the wanting to go for Arsenal defense. Newcastle have not been good away from home. Arsenal are playing at home. I think for the most part, outside of Gabriel, I'm probably going to be going against the Arsenal defense this week. I think there's better options. There's higher differential options. I'm trying to gain my rank, and not that really matters. You're really, at the end of the day, you just want more points, but I prefer edging that bet a little bit more, going against Arsenal and taking some potential good probability with these other players I don't think are as highly considered. So yeah, those are options, but for me, their projected point total and their average points per game is nothing to we have to have them in. Looking at David Raya, his average points per match is a little less than 4. Robin Roofs on average is a little over 4. Hermansen is about 4.5. So am I going out of my way to get David Raya in, who everyone's going to have anyways? Probably not, honestly. Arsenal have also been in pretty poor form recently. Decent defensively, but overall not playing very well. They're next on the line now. I haven't talked about this, but I'm recording on Wednesday night. All of the Game Week 33 matches have been played. Manchester City won 1-0 against Burnley, so they are technically top of the table on goals scored, and not even just goal difference, goals scored. So it's a crazy tight title race. Arsenal are going to need to step up and score goals. So maybe even that is justification to say, oh, maybe they'll be a little bit looser at the back. Maybe Arteta will let them off their reins finally this entire season and let them play. So yeah, that's my point on goalkeepers. I really think Roofs, Hermansen, Pickford, Freddie Woodman, those are really good options. Raya's fine. Vicario is fine, I guess, but not really. Yeah, apart from that, I wouldn't really go anywhere else. I think those are enough for goalkeepers. Let's move on to the defenders. Okay, defenders, top of the list. Gabriel, I have highlighted in green. I should have mentioned, I've highlighted players for the YouTube folks. I've highlighted players in green and purple. Green are like closer to my team. I'm kind of more interested in those players. Purple is like on the bubble. So Gabriel, I think, is a definite lock in my team. I think he's probably, in terms of like a ranking order of players in my team this week, Gabriel's one of the top. So Gabriel, I think, is definitely in. Tarkowski is a consideration, but one thing that I'll explain I'll just jump into it now. When I'm going player against player, if I, for instance, if I think that Bowen is going to have a higher projected point total for Gameweek 34, I'm going to take that into consideration and say, it basically is a zero-sum game. It isn't technically, because Tarkowski can score, Bowen could score, and they could both do very well. But I think those are low probabilities. I think it's a low probability that Tarkowski scores. I think it's a higher probability that someone from West Ham scores, Everton doesn't score, and if they do, it's not Tarkowski, if that makes sense. So if I favor Bowen over Tarkowski, I'm going to just pick Bowen, and I'm going to kind of push Tarkowski down to the bubble. The same is going to be for like Sunderland players and Nottingham Forest players, as you'll see. So again, Tarkowski probably not in, but I think a great option. Dan Ballard, I'm going to wait for more news on him, definitely before putting him into a starting 11. But I think he'll probably be on my bench regardless. He's a good option. Sunderland at home playing Nottingham Forest. If we take last week out of it, I'm a lot less scared about that. But yeah, after Ballard, Mukiele, Keane, I don't think is a good option unless Branthwaite is 100% injured or out. He did get injured and stretchered off, so it's likely that Keane will be back in. But again, I'm probably not going to go for him because I'm probably going to be going for a West Ham attacker. Hint. Romero's out for the season. Pedro Porro, I think, is a good option. High attacking potential. I think decent clean sheet. Wolves are 100% relegated now, so I'm probably going to have 3 Spurs players in my starting 11. From there, I'm not really interested in any of these players I didn't highlight, if I'm completely honest. Saliba, I think, is a fine option if you're backing the Arsenal defense. I'm probably not going to do that this week, so that's why Saliba is on the bubble. Mavropanos, excuse me, I'm like Ricola and burps, sorry. Mavropanos probably should have been highlighted. Not a bad option, actually. He gets 4 points per match. His projected point total is 4.72, which on one hand, the projected point total is higher than Van Dijk, but I think I'm just going to go for Van Dijk. Maybe it's the bias in me, but yeah, I just think Liverpool have a higher probability of a clean sheet, given Crystal Palace will probably have one eye on European fixtures. Will they even start somebody like Ismail Assar, who's been benched a couple times? I think that takes a huge level of threat away from Crystal Palace. So I'm probably going to be going for Van Dijk, Pedro Porro, and Gabriel as a back 3. Are there any other ones that I'm considering? No, it doesn't look like it. So that's going to be my list. The three in green, Gabriel, Porro, and Van Dijk, are probably going to be my back three. Let's move on to the midfielders. Okay, and I made some of these highlights before I actually made my decision, so these are subject to change as well. But Bruno Fernandes, top of the list for projected point total. He is number one. Him and Gabriel were locks in my free hit team. No need to upset that apple cart, so that's in. Saka, if he was fit and healthy, probably would be he definitely would be a consideration. Probably would be in the team, but considering that, I'm gonna avoid. Anderson from Nottingham Forest, he's on the bubble, but not a sexy pick, so probably not. If I were to go for a Nottingham Forest player, it would be Gibbs White, but I'm putting Gibbs White on the bubble because when I matched up Mukiele and Gibbs White, I actually swayed towards Mukiele. I just think he's got higher clean sheet potential. He's got good goal threat. It's not as good as Gibbs White, but the clean sheet potential, defensive contributions, I think Mukiele is probably more likely to come away with more points from Gameweek 34 than Gibbs White, so he's back on the bubble. Dewsbury Hall on the bubble as well. Garner on the bubble. Rice, I'm actually going to throw him into the starting 11. I think, considering Arsenal now need to go on and get goals, Declan Rice, while not the sexiest pick, he's their highest attacking threat at this point, with Saka having kind of a horrendous season and being injured for a majority of it. If you look at Rice, he's gotten 5.25 points per match, and he's projected to get 5.25 basically from the match against Newcastle. So do I look at this and I say, maybe that could actually be, we could inflate this if Arteta says, let's go on and attack. They're still going to have focus on set pieces, which Rice takes several of them. So I think with, their asses on the line, I'm hoping that this kind of inspires some of these guys to get forward, get more goals, even if it costs them potentially conceding, which is good for FPL. So I think Rice is in. Njai probably should have been on the bubble. I think he's an all-around good pick. I'd lump him in with Garner, and although, did Garner get hurt? So many players got hurt that match. I would lump him in with Dewsbury Hall, Garner, Gibbs White, Anderson. They're kind of in the same block. Now, a guy who's not in the same block, I don't think, Mohamed Salah. It's going to be uncertain if he's even on the pitch or, starting for Liverpool, but I'm throwing my hat behind it. I think this is probably the biggest differential captaincy opportunity that we're potentially going to get for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go there. I'm probably going to captain him. I said it last podcast and I'm saying it now. That's probably going to be my decision. Hopefully a lot of people don't captain him, because I would love to get a brace or something wacky from Salah just to kind of close out his time at Anfield. But yep, he's in. Another player on the bubble, Morgan Rogers. He's never been the type of player I go for. I don't think they've got a good fixture. They're playing Fulham away. Sorry. Still getting over this little cold. Yeah, they're playing Fulham away. Rogers has been on the score sheet recently, but yeah, I just personally not going to go there. I need to pause because I'm going to cough my lungs out. This is for the ASMR folks. This is ruining my audio quality, but I apologize. Ricola, hit me up for sponsorship, dog. Okay. Back to ruining my podcast. Okay, so Xavi Simons, I think, is probably going to be in. And, we kind of have to ignore this 2.85 points per match. He's been playing under defensive and not very good managers, if we're being completely honest. Although Thomas Frank, RIP, not actually, but at Tottenham, just was not able to get his message across. I think he needed more time. There were a lot of factors with that, but I'm ignoring his average points per match because I think recency has to come into it. You have to consider De Zerbi. I think Xavi Simons is going to be integral if they are to get anything from the next few matches and get out of this relegation battle. So he's going to be in my free hit team almost certainly. And I'm putting him alongside like Mbumo and Cunha. I think they're all, I would probably rate them all around the same expected point total or projected point total for 34 if I had to put a mark on it. But I think I'm going to give Xavi Simons an edge just for fun. And a lot of people are not going to have him. It's going to be a good differential, I think. So that's going to be the direction I go. There's a few other players on the bubble that I'll talk about just really briefly, but Harry Wilson, Fulham playing Aston Villa, I think it's fine. Not a pick for me. Szoboszlai, I think is also fine, but again, is he going to be playing right back? Who knows? Cunha, I've already talked about. And then I guess you can lump in like, what's his name? Florian Wirtz. I didn't even highlight. I don't know where he is. Here he is. Let's give him a highlight. You're on the bubble, kid. But yeah, just it's fine. I think those are good picks if you want to go in that direction. It's just personally, I'm probably going to be going slightly different. So I think for me, the midfield's going to look like Bruno, Rice, Salah, Xavi Simons, and I think that's it, because I think I'm going to have 3 forwards actually, but I'm not sure. And on to the forwards. Speaking of, Ollie Watkins is actually the highest projected point total for the upcoming week, but I think I'm going to go away from that. I know he's been really hot. He got a brace last match, I think it was. But I just think there's like a couple different ways I'm looking at it. Like if you look at it more holistically, I feel like Thiago just has a much higher average point total. We're looking at 4 points per match about compared to a little over 5 for Thiago. Similar for Bowen, actually. He's got 4.82 points per match. So a much higher average total compared to Watkins. Now, the underlying data probably favors somebody like Watkins, but his finishing has just been really poor. And I do think it's a more difficult fixture. So despite the fact that the projected point total is going to be higher for Watkins compared to Solanke, Bowen, and Thiago, I think I'm going to be counting on Manchester United's defense not being very good. They still are, like, their defense looked horrible against Chelsea, but somehow they manage. I mean, Chelsea just absolutely capitulated. For Bowen, I just think he's got a higher average point total, and I think if I'm going to be going for anybody slightly differential, it's probably going to be him. And then Solanke, again, like the Xavi Simons shout, we're going to have to kind of ignore the average point total because Solanke has, with a completely different manager and a completely different approach, I can see some attacking returns from Spurs. Will it happen? Who knows? Maybe it will be Beto. Maybe Beto gets the hat trick and I'm looking like a complete nerd and an idiot, but that's what I'm going to be going for. So I think if I'm adding things up, it's a 3-4-3. And let's go over to my like decision document on how I kind of like ranked players. So this isn't the most scientific, but I was going through like the total, not that. So over to the spreadsheet, if I put all the positions next to each other, I was kind of going down the list and not going exactly name for name, because despite the fact that, you know, we have a projected point total, there's more context that goes into it than just weighting by fixture difficulty rating and looking at an average player's points per match. There is more that goes into it. So the way that I ranked it Number 1, Bruno was the lock in my team, followed by Gabriel, followed by Rice, actually, surprisingly. He has such a high average point total per match that I just couldn't really ignore it. Combined with the fact that Arsenal are just going to have to start scoring more goals. It's incredibly close. I think the goals scored is like a difference of 2 or 1. And obviously, if they get a higher goal difference from now until the end of the season, they're going to win the league, even if they're tied on points with Man City. So they're going to need to score goals. Rice is my best shout. It probably won't be Rice. It's probably going to be someone like Madueke or Trossard or so. But I can't predict that. I can only go off of based on the data that I have. And I feel more confident going with somebody like Rice. So Rice was number 3. Thiago is number 4. And Bowen and Tarkowski were actually really close in my estimation, but I edged it towards Bowen. I keep saying edge. I should not be saying that on YouTube. I gave the close call to Bowen. So that took Tarkowski out of it for me because we're playing game theory. What can I say? Salah was in after that. Then it was close between Mukiele and Gibbs White, but I gave the edge to Mukiele for all the reasons I had stated. So that took Gibbs White out of the situation. And basically it left me with the other midfielders and forwards would be Solanke and Xavi Simons or Mbumo, Cunha, etc. So, and then I filled in Van Dijk because I needed 3 defenders. And that was, like I said, he was the third on my list, actually. So behind Mukiele, surprisingly. And then the goalkeepers, pretty straightforward. They're just competing straight up with each other. I think those were the best 2, Roofs and Hermansen. So let's look at what that looks like on a screen. And if anybody's even reading this, probably difficult because it's so tiny. But I color coded it by position to kind of help me. So yellow midfielders, green for defenders, teal or cyan, I don't know, is forwards, and then purple, pink was the goalkeepers. Gosh, podcasters should really never ever get sick because this is, I'm sorry if the sound quality is so bad. If you're hearing like the Ricola like click around in the audio, I apologize. I'm doing my best here. So to run through the team that I'm ending up with, we've got Roofs in goal. We've got Gabriel in defense with Mukiele and Virgil van Dijk. Midfield is consisting of Bruno Fernandes, Rice, Mohamed Salah, captained Xavi Simons, and the forward line of Thiago, Solanke, and Jared Bowen. On the bench, Hermansen, Dan Ballard, Pedro Porro, and Dewsbury Hall. The bench is not really going to matter. I don't think 3 of these players are going to miss out, but who knows? I had 2 players miss out last week, and it would have been great if they had told me that before I played my bench boost. But again, I'm not bitter. We're just going to move on to free hit 34. And overall, am I happy about this team? Yeah, I think it's going to be fairly differential. I think most people are probably going to be going for 3 Arsenal defenders. Or 2, I think at least. They're going to go for Raya, Gabriel. I don't think people are going to be going for Rice. I honestly do think that it's probably more likely a lot of people play 3 Arsenal defenders and like a Van Dijk. Like you'll see Raya, Van Dijk, Gabriel, and Saliba probably in a lot of teams playing free hit this week. So I do think this is fairly differential. I like the picks, they're not just like differential for the sake of it. I think that it's grounded in some level of justification, whether it's, the Tottenham guys or Mohamed Salah, just because I'm biased. There is a question of like, should Pedro Porro come in for one of these 3? I think that's a good question. Maybe that's what happens. I bring Pedro Porro in for Mukiele, or maybe even Van Dijk. Yeah. And I have switched to live FPL's like planner. It's so bad, dude. Come on. Substitute. And then you have to like click the arrows. It's so unuser friendly. I love live FPL. The planner is kind of bad. Just please take please take FPL.team's kind of formulae and apply it here, because this could use a little bit of user interface work. But overall, yeah, website's not my domain. You guys are killing it. So ignore all of my criticism. I apologize. Yeah, so maybe that's the defense instead. I mean, I can go either way. This team I think is somewhat flexible with, like, I could see myself playing Dan Ballard over Pedro Porro. I don't know. But I'm pretty happy with the midfield, pretty happy with the forward line. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. As news comes out, I may update the team, and I'll keep everybody as up to date as possible on Discord, because I am human. I'm gonna make flippant decisions in the last minute or so, especially in cases like this where I've got unlimited transfers, which is really a bad thing to give me because I am bad with transfers. So the more time I have to think about it, the more I tinker, the worse my team is probably going to get. But I think this is, Spurs are going to concede. That's just like a 100% doubt, isn't it? Not a doubt. It's a 100% certainty, isn't it? And why can I not substitute you, dude? Substitute. Like, and then there's no arrow here. Killing me. Okay, just imagine Virgil van Dijk is on for Pedro Porro. Can I drag you? No. Okay, I made the change. I think this is probably better. I'm flipping and I'm flopping, but this is what I'm thinking for the time being. So no changes. Virgil van Dijk's back in defense. Pedro Porro's back on the bench. We'll see. We'll see as the deadline approaches. And before we jump over to the scout versus scout competition, I can hear my like blocked nose through the recording already. This is going to be bad. Before we get to the scout versus scout competition, I'm going to go through some questions for the pod from the Discord. If you want to get involved in any question asking, jump on the Discord. I'm, available there, and I'll read them out on YouTube/podcast. But I think they're insightful and they're going to inform some of the discussion going forward, because I do want to talk about very briefly what to do if you don't have a free hit, although it's going to be very challenging for me to do that because number one, my mind is like laser focused on free hit and I can't think of anything else. Number two, everyone's team is going to be slightly different. You may have 15 blank players who blank in Gameweek 34. In that case, I'm not going to have a lot of help for you. But if you're, have like a team that's on the margin, maybe you need to bring in one player to field a full team, that's probably what I'm going to be able to talk about. But let's jump into those questions and I'll start that now. Okay, I'm going to do my best to read these out. Questions for the pod. If I'm 76 points behind mini league leader but still have triple captain, when they don't, is it possible to catch up, and what strategy would you use? E.g., would you go for risky players or template? The person does not have they don't have the triple captainship. You do. I think if you didn't play it on Holland for 33, obviously a double game week, I think you just got to hold it until the double game week that is going to be played, which is likely going to be 36, but it's going to be Man City versus Crystal Palace and whoever else they play in 36. So I can look that up, but I think that's just going to be the best, most optimal time to play it. Is it going to net you 76 points is the next question in that chunk. The triple captain alone is definitely not going to do that. I think differential is, there's a couple of different ways to put it. So if you're like differential from everyone's team, like the average template is not going to like gain you those 76 point differences from you and your mini league rival. You need to differentiate yourself from them. Now I don't know how, like if it's just a competition between you two or if like there's other people in the pack, because you also have to consider that, but 76 points is a whole lot at this point, especially after the double game week and now going into a blank game week. It's going to be very tricky. Like if you weren't able to catch up like 10 points from these like double game weeks and chip usages, it's going to be very challenging, I will say. Is it impossible? No, but it's going to be very challenging. We've got 5 game weeks left, 6 for some teams technically because of the double. But I'm going to say it's possible. Very unlikely, but possible. And the only way that it's going to be possible is if you look at, if we're doing like an A versus B, if there's more teams in the pack, I'm not going to be able to like give you every different situation. But assuming we're just trying to compete against your mini league rival, I would go against those types of players. Maybe not all of them, but certainly players that you think or maybe are not good, for a lack of a better term, good players, like lower projected point total players who have lower average points per match. If they have those players, if you can kind of differentiate yourself from that. If they have a team that's like Gabriel, Holland, Semenyo, O'Reilly, you get what I'm trying to say. If it's a team that's like full of those types of players, it's going to be very challenging. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more difficult I think this is going to be. But the general advice I think would be to differentiate yourself from your mini league rival in as many ways as you think is logical. Like, I wouldn't be completely throwing out your team. Like, I wouldn't be selling Holland. I wouldn't be selling Gabriel. I wouldn't be selling Bruno. Those I think you just have to keep because they're on average, they're going to score more points across from now until the end of the season. But pick your battles. Find some differentials that you feel from your mini league rival that you feel like could gain you the edge in the next 5 game weeks. But apart from that, there's really not much you could do. Again, you could use the triple captain on like a really wacky differential. Maybe for game week, let's say for game week 36, if you're pretty confident that your mini league rival is going to captain Holland, I would probably triple captain Semenyo or O'Reilly, or that's probably it. But those would be the 2 differential picks I would go for on that situation. Next question. Okay, and this is going to be very similar to the first question, but if you still had triple captain, where would you use it? That's easy. 36 when there's likely to be a double game week. We know that there's going to be a double game week. We just don't know exactly when it's going to be arranged. It's probably going to be 36, but it's going to be Man City versus Crystal Palace. That fixture is going to be rearranged, likely to 36. That's when I would use the triple captain. Sorry. And if you're really trailing, I would go for like a non-Holland pick, basically. Okay, question 3. What's your strategy for the rest of the season, and what players under the radar or teams would you target for the rest of the season? And I think I'm going to probably give an unsatisfying answer for this, but I'm just going to go for players that I think have higher projected point totals based on the teams that they're playing, based on their average point total. So if you go to like the spreadsheet, which should be updated, I apologize if I have not updated the spreadsheet lately, but if you go on Airtable, which is linked in the description of every podcast, and you sort by projected point total across the next 5 matches, I'm going to lean heavily towards the players that are higher up on those lists. So it's really not team dependent. It's not even player specific dependent. Well, I guess it kind of is, but you get what I'm trying to say is like, I'm not focusing on any one thing. I'm just trying to reduce the players who have low projected point totals and increase the players who have higher projected point totals. So to give a quick, really live presentation, like going over to the air table, making sure you've restricted the number of matches. So it's probably at least over 10 just to give yourself a good sample size. Some of these players have only played a couple matches, wouldn't be good picks regardless. So yeah, limit the amount or filter by the number of matches played and then sort by projected X points next 5. You're going to find better players at the top, worse players at the bottom. And, you know, some people go for these, you know, and some of these players who have had low projected point totals have done really well. Like, for instance, Wilson has probably had bad projected point totals based on the underlying data for the entire season, but he's done really well in patches. But consistently, these are going to be the players I go for. Bruno Fernandes, Gabriel. I just said those in reverse. Gabriel, Bruno Fernandes, Saka if he was fit, Jurriën Timber if he was fit, Declan Rice, Calafiore if he was fit, Tarkowski, Ballard, Saliba, Haaland, Mukiele, Keane, Roofs, Mbumo, Malik Chia, Thiago. You get what I'm trying to say. So I would sort by that list. And if you're finding that a lot of your players are way down here, like if they're only projected to get like, let's see, like the highest is almost 40. If, you know, you're seeing a lot of your players like below 20, so that would indicate across the next 5, their projected point total on average is like less than 4. I would consider swapping those players out. Not a hard and fast rule, but just something to consider. You could also focus on like Crystal Palace players. That's going to be kind of differential. I think people are kind of moved off of them, but I would still consider at least like a Munoz, maybe swapping the goalkeepers, get an extra double game weeker, you know, something like that would be in consideration. So that would be my like general advice for what my strategy is moving towards the end of the season. I think I'm going to have 3 free transfers ahead of game week 36. I'm probably going to use them all in Crystal Palace players. I know I'm an idiot and a sucker for the double game weeks, but that's probably just what's going to happen. It's probably going to be Ismail Assar in, it's probably going to be Strand Larson, and it's probably going to be Munoz or like a Lacroix, depending on the funds. And the final question is, as the season has gone on, what have you learned compared to previous seasons FPL? I don't know if like compared to previous seasons of FPL, but this season in particular, I think I just did too much. I think one of the big like turning points in my season was when we got all those transfers for the AFCON. I blew all of them almost immediately. I might have used all of them immediately, and it completely tanked my season. Like I was going from, I think I was like around 10K or something like that, and then just immediately shot me way up. And it was stupid. I basically sold some of the players I had the entire season. I sold Semenyo, who I had for the entire season. There was some uncertainty about like, is he going to be, you know, like knitted into the Man City system immediately? It ended up being true. I wish I would have just held on to those transfers and then like retroactively use them. That's not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say is like held on to those transfers and then just like waited. And then if I then established that Semenyo needed to be sold, I should have sold him at that point, not trying to get ahead of the curve. So I think there are a few too many times in my season that I was trying to get ahead of the curve. And I don't think any of the situations worked out where I was trying to get ahead of the curve. So I think for future Devin, I'm going to tell myself, just wait. It's probably better to be patient than to be eager and jump on some transfer that if it works out, like the difference between you getting all of those points in like the first week that it happens is just so unlikely. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I learned this season, and I probably won't stick to that lesson, but yeah, that's been kind of rattling around my head as we get towards the end of the season. I think I've done just a little bit too much, tried to be too clever when maybe I should have just gone for some more vibes picks, I guess, like gotten on Rodgers or Wilson, or that's just not really how I play. And I probably almost certainly will not like take that into the next season. But I think the overall vibe of like maybe trying to be a little too clever, trying to do a little bit too much and get ahead of the curve, I'm going to try not to do that next season. I'm going to actively try not to do that next season. Okay, I know I just was on a soapbox and espousing a lot of advice and strategy that probably was not warranted and probably didn't need to hear. But because I did mention that I was going to try to talk about general strategy for people that like can almost get a team together into blank game week 34, I just ripped this from Reddit. A Reddit post was the absolute first Reddit post I saw, but I noticed that this team was dangerously close to fielding a full 11. So what would I do in this scenario? And I think the advice is just really simple. I probably would, like in this scenario, the player has Cole Palmer, Semenyo, João Pedro, Gehi, and Ryan all blanking, guaranteed not to get any points. I think the rest of the team is definitely workable. Like it's not going to be as good as a free hit on paper, but it's pretty close. Like this team has Roofs, Gabriel, Virgil van Dijk, Malik Chia, Anderson, Bruno Fernandez, captain, Dewsbury Hall, Jared Bowen, and Raul Jimenez. They've also got Pickford in on the bench. And yeah, I went over all the other players. So basically they have 5 players that are blanking. They need 2 more to field a full 11. I don't know how many transfers they have. I didn't even read the post, so I apologize. But this is just like a general, take this as a general example for a team that's kind of close. Because I think a lot of people are kind of on the fringes of this. They wanted to get as many double game weekers as possible last week, but they might have had to balance it with single game weekers because of this blank. And here we are. So looking at this team, I think the highest priority to sell would be Cole Palmer and João Pedro, probably. I would definitely keep Semenyo. I would definitely keep Gehi. Ryan is probably a decent keep as well. I think their fixtures aren't too bad. And Ryan, I think, is an overall decent pick. Nothing crazy, but he's fine. João Pedro, we don't know how big this injury is. He was supposed to potentially be on the bench for Brighton. He didn't make the bench. And Palmer, yeah, just who freaking knows. So unless we get more information about their injuries, I would probably be looking to sell Palmer and João Pedro. And is it possible? I don't know how much funds are available, but if it's possible, I would drop Cole Palmer down to a workable player. Oh, and then this is the thing. Holland is going to blank as well. The thing is, I would want to bring Holland in next week. So maybe that would be the move you think of in the future. So maybe you don't swap João Pedro this week. You go Cole Palmer and Ryan. You tank both of those positions, but players that I think are going to be pretty decent. So like maybe a Garner and Anderson, much cheaper players. And then next week, I would swap João Pedro for Holland, who's going to double. That would, I think, be 100% the move that I would make. This week, I would get those 2 moves gone, Palmer, Ryan, and then next week, Semenyo will be back, Gehi will be back. They'll both have double game weeks in probably 36. The missing piece is Erling Haaland, which I understand a lot of people sold him and now they're probably buying him back. Obviously, this week is not the week to do that. Next week, I would definitely be trying to make the funds work so that you can bring Haaland back in, because that's I think the missing piece. This team generally looks pretty good otherwise, but the double game week's going to be a killer if Haaland keeps up the form, which he's been able to get 2 goals, I think, right? So and we know he could do way more. So with the title race bubbling on, I would not want to be the team without Erling Haaland next week. Okay, I've been talking way too much for somebody whose voice has not been the best this week, but let's wrap the pod with the Scout versus Scout competition. And last week I lost. This was my team, if you remember. So I literally just have YouTube up because I forgot to screenshot it. I apologize. And also I'm going to try to remember to update the Airtable, but that is a mental note to myself, and I will make a physical note. Airtable. Okay. This was the team, and it didn't do very well. A lot of the same players, the official FPL scout team. And for anybody who has no idea, is tuning in for the first time, I do a competition every single week where I put my free hit team up against the official FPL scout free hit team. And I can't remember exactly who they had. I think they had Van Hecke in. I think they had Verbruggen. No, they had Darlow in goal. And basically every 50-50 change that my team was from the official FPL scout team, it went their direction. So while I think on paper my team was probably fine but not as bad as it was, the official FPL scout team just like completely beat it. So we do need to go over. I'm going to try to do this on the flippity flop to the mini league leader of Gameweek34, which was a barn burner. The top point scorer in the mini league this past week was Philip Bjorkman. The team name I am not going to try to pronounce. Something Athletic Bilbao. I guess that's some sort of play on Athletic Bilbao, but you captained Tavernier. You got 144 points. And if you remember, I got 109. My team is here. Did not plan a freaking bench boost. Absolute mug. I can see a lot of people bench boosted in the mini league. The players that did very well. This person who got 114 points hit the free hit. This person used their triple captain on O'Reilly's. Well done. But yeah, this was the team to win the Scout versus Scout. Well, you get what I'm trying to say. Since I lost, you win the cash prize, which is $10 every single week that my team loses. And you, Philip, good man, you've won. So reach out to me on Discord, reach out to me on Reddit. We'll just confirm that you are who you say you are, and you can back it up, and I'll send you the cash prize. Just reach out. But yeah, absolutely amazing team. And you still had João Pedro not play, which, yeah, that sucks for everybody. But you had Gross on the bench, 16 pointer. How did Gross get 16 points and Aronson got 7? I'm not going to talk about that, but I am completely butthurt. But yeah, looking over your team, great. I mean, you had O'Reilly when I had Gehi, very similar teams. You had Gibbs White, 20 pointer on a single game week. That is amazing. Yeah, that is so cool. What a great team. Absolutely crushed it. Calvert-Lewin on the bench. You win 144 points this week. Absolutely killed it. I'm trying to see if there's any. Oh, you got a plus 46 point green arrow. 46 point green arrow. Can you freaking believe that? Jeez Louise. But yeah, well done. Congratulations. And again, hit me up on Discord and we'll arrange the funds. Now let's look forward to this week, which I guess is already kind of done. So let's just review the free hit team that I'm going to put forward. I'll try to remember to screenshot it, but here we are. The only change I made was I actually swapped out Pedro Porro for Mukiele. So when the money's on the line, this is the team I came up with. So I think this is probably going to be closer to the team I probably end up with, which, yeah, almost makes me want to go Hermanson over Roofs, but I don't know. I'm going to stop flip-flopping on that. This is going to be my free hit team to go up against the official FPL scout team. Again, I don't have a lot of info because we haven't seen press conferences and all that good stuff, but I got to go with my gut. This is when I'm podcasting. So this is the team that I'll put together and I'll screenshot it. I'm putting my stamp on it. If this team beats the official FPL scout team, nil points, no money dispensed. But if my free hit team loses against the official FPL scout team, I give out cash like I did to Philip. Philip, you and your disgusting 144 point team. Yeah. Okay, let's close out the pod. I'm going to eat so many more Ricola. Okay, thank you all for tuning in and sticking with me on this very long podcast. Why did I podcast for so long? I guess I had a lot to talk about, but also I need to rest my voice. I need to get to bed. So I'm going to eat Ricola, and again, not a sponsor, but hit me up. Yeah. So good luck. Hopefully, Gameweek34 treats you better than Gameweek33 treated me. And yeah, we're closing out the season. It's coming very quickly to the end. So again, good luck. I'll see you next week to react to Gameweek34, which I think from here on until Gameweek36 should be kind of relatively normal. I know we've got European fixtures to think of, but generally speaking, that really only applies to a couple of teams, Arsenal and Crystal Palace. Oh, I guess Forest and Villa too. I forgot Europa League, but yeah, I'll stop rambling. I'll go to bed, get some rest. I'll see you all next week to react to Gameweek34. Bye.